is underway. Stamps his authority once again.
My word, this could go wrong.
On the brakes, goodness me, what a launch.
Look at that.
It just all comes down to this. Right then, ladies and gentlemen, we've had a week off and we are back. Round number 8 of the season. We've just ticked over the halfway mark and we're going to be here today for the Italian Grand Prix around Monza. My name's Joseph Black. I'll be taking you through the action alongside Kyle Stewart-Woodard. Now, Kyle, of course, it's we've had a week off. We've of course got a few drivers off, still celebrating Easter or away in America for some reason, but that provides the opportunity for more drivers and one brand new driver in particular to really make their name known.
Absolutely. Welcome, everyone, and welcome to the Temple of Speed. Of course, we're here at Monza on the modern layout. We don't have that core banking anymore. Not that I'm old enough to remember that. But yes, we are. We've got, as you say, Andrea Chenkovan is missing this one. He is in the Netherlands for a business trip, so that's fun. And he did tell us that isn't information he didn't want you to know. He offered up that information quite freely, so that's fun for him. Lucas Orsini in the US, so another person on holiday. So yeah, these Easter holidays coming in. We've got Dan Riley also sitting this one out, and we also have, why have I gone blank? There's another driver sitting this one out. Gone completely blank for some. Oh, it's Ethan Shackleton. So we actually have no Ferraris running this week out. So this is going to be quite an odd one. Obviously, they are leading the team championship as well. So this gives opportunities for the Aston Martins of Owen Boldero and Ollie Matthews. Of course, we've seen significant pace from them. They just never quite had enough. Ollie Corbett, brand new driver in the McLaren. There's a driver in the McLaren again. He'll be looking to make a name for himself this time out. We've seen impressive debuts from the likes of Randro and, of course, Alexis Mason. Alexis Mason being another driver who is here this week. Of course, being a reserve, will be sitting in for Dan Riley. However, we have got qualifying bans for Alexis Mason, for Paul Garong, who has now retired, and for Matthew Gatchis, who isn't here. So there may well be further bans for Matthew in the future. But yeah, we love this track. This is a super fast track. We're going to see some rapid lap times from these drivers. Regan Hardin is going to be in the session very soon, so we'll have 10 drivers despite all the holidays. But yeah, anyone could take it. I mean, Brian Moore currently in the P1 spot at the moment. Could we see a bit of an upset from the Kick Saubers?
Well, we'll see, and I would also say check drivers chat as well on the status of Ethan Shackleton, but we're going to watch on board with Alexander De Vickel as he heads through a lap of the Monza circuit, heading through the first chicane. You have to go from such high speeds to such low speeds very, very quickly indeed, down through the Rettifilia chicane, and then through Curva Grande, which is turn number 3, then towards Variante della Roggia for turns number 4 and 5. And it's one where you sort of just have to compromise your entry, which is exactly what he's done there, just to try and get the power down as quickly as you can, down towards the Lesmos. Here come the Lesmos for these two corners. You want to keep as tight to the apex as possible, but somehow still throw the car wide on the exit as well. It's where the curbing is. That's basically where you want to end up before you head down towards a DRS zone. The first full one on a lap, although technically the first one down the main straight does start on the start-finish line pretty much, so that's a good indicator. 53.360 for Alexander De Vickel in the first two sectors as he heads through now what will be the Ascari chicane, and then down towards the next straight to set yourself up for the final corner. It's a very long sweeping corner around the curve of Parabolica, and that will be the final corner for all of these drivers. The main overtaking opportunities into Parabolica, into the Rettifilia chicane. I'm sure we'll be seeing some drivers take it to some other parts of the circuit as well as Alexander De Vickel. First lap time on the board is going to be a 1 minute 20.810. What can Connor Stewart-Woodard do as the second driver to come to the line? He will be setting his first time on the board for today's action, and he will go ahead of Vickel by over a second. The two Aston Martins coming to the line next. It won't be Owen Boldero setting a time. He's invalidated. It will be Ollie Matthews going up to the top of the field. He gets a 1:19.169. Burt Welly next to it, and he gets a 1:19.399, and will be the first lap for Ollie Corbett, a 1:20.089. Splitting Connor Stewart-Woodard and the Alexander De Vickel as well, the Haas driver, the lone Haas driver at the back of the field, as now Ethan Shackleton joins the field, and we've got 11 drivers in the session, both the Mercedes with qualifying bans, so it should be a very good race indeed.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes, of course, I forgot it'd be both Mercedes, of course, with Alexis sitting in for Dan Riley. So they will be doing a last to first challenge, it would seem. That is, of course, assuming that the drivers who have not yet set a time don't crash or invalidate throughout this session, which can very easily be done here. Ascari being quite a tricky corner to not invalidate. So we'll see how we get on. Ollie Matthews, of course, we've seen P2s, we've seen P3s, but we've not yet seen the win from Ollie Matthews. Could this be the time? Of course, we know how fast Alexis Mason is, but coming from the back, has she quite got enough pace? It's going to be fun finding out. That much I do know. Bert Welly, of course, kind of struggled a little bit this season, been in the mid-pack, but is only 2 tenths behind Ollie Matthews at the moment. So we could see a bit of an upset from Bert. Can't be very happy in P3 at the moment, but I dare say that Owen Baldero, Ethan Shackleton and Regan will potentially look to go ahead of him when they set their laps. But I mean, a lot can happen. They may well mess up their laps, as I say, but I'm looking forward to seeing what times they're going to do when they finally get around to setting their times.
Yeah, we will. It'll be Brian Moore, the next one to the line to set a time, and he is valid in all corners, but the last one, which is what he's heading through now, so he should be able to keep this lap nice and valid if he doesn't run too wide, and indeed he has. So our Brian Moore will be coming up to the line, and he'll be setting his first time on the board, and it will be a 1 minute 20.324. That puts himself pretty much halfway between Alexander Vickel and Ollie Corbett. Owen Baldero in the first sector looking for his first time on the board. He invalidated his first lap, so he's going once again and hoping to be able to keep this one on the straight and narrow this time. Keep this one on the tarmac, as obviously you can go quite easily off the circuit at the corners like the Ascari chicane and like the Lesmos as well if you run slightly wide, as well as the Variante della Roggia, but kept it clean through all of the obvious zones, and now only has a corner where it will be quite tricky to invalidate, but never impossible. The Curva Parabolica, if you run too wide on the exit, that can catch you out. But Owen Baldero appears to be absolutely fine keeping the power down towards the exit, and he will get his first lap time on the board. Is it anywhere near his teammate? In fact, it's going to be better than him. It's going to be better than him by 0.3 tenths of a second. So it's a 1-2 for the Aston Martins at the moment. Ethan Shackleton has just started his lap, and it's been a very good start to the season indeed for the Ferraris. 252 points in the first half, and they're going to hope to back that up in the second half of the season, with the difference between themselves and the Aston Martins being 65 points. Racing Bulls find themselves in third place, almost 100 points ahead of the Williams team in fourth, and the Haas team in fifth have managed to make it past McLaren, which is currently inactive with no drivers racing for that team. Kick Sauber find themselves in seventh place, level on points with the McLarens, and if Mercedes score any points today, any more than 4, they'll be able to get ahead of the McLaren as well, so they will go back down to the bottom of that order. And then in the drivers' standings, it will be Andrea Chenkovan, of course, our leader. Ollie Matthews, Owen Baldero, big opportunity to catch up here today. 70 points the difference between Ollie Matthews and Andrea Chenkovan, 80 points the difference between Chenkovan and Baldero. And then Lucas Erosini and Bert Welly, 4th and 5th. Bert Welly and Ethan Shackleton making their way past Alexis Mason on the standings, as Ethan Shackleton has retired from the session. He's gone straight off at the Ascari chicane and straight into the wall.
What's happened there? See, I absolutely missed that. So the Aston Martins, of course, would have been ruined seeing Ethan Shackleton join the session. He would have changed his mind and joined the session, despite saying he was going to sit this one out. But seeing that's going to give them a renewed sense of glee. They're going to have a chance at not only pole position, but potentially the win with the likes of Ethan Shackleton and Alexis Mason being at the back. However, what this does do is allows the Mercedes drivers to, well, actually I don't know what order they're going to be in the race. I don't know if it's going to be the order that we currently see on screen, as Ollie Matthews gets a bit of a slipstream there but doesn't finish the lap as he's going side by side with Regan, having a bit of fun there on their qualifying laps, as Ollie goes very wide there in the background behind Bert Welly. So yeah, I don't quite know what this does to the order at the back, but that is not great from Ethan Shackleton. Being the lone Ferrari here, would need to get as many points as possible to keep their lead, as we were looking at the standings there. However, that's not quite going to be the case. But with only 11 drivers on the grid, anything can happen. As long as if one person, has a early retirement, then all they will need to do after that is finish the race for some guaranteed points. But of course, 10 place, is 1 point, whereas the win is 25 points, and that could be a big swing in the team's standings, especially with the Aston Martins currently sitting first and second.
Yeah, Aston Martin in a very good position at the moment at the very top of the order. Burtwelly was looking to improve on the last lap, has improved, and he's made his way within a tenth of Owen Boldero and almost a tenth of Ollie Matthews at the front. Alexander De Vickel going for another lap, and well, he's just finished it. He's got a 1 minute 20.810 as well. Alexis Mason, I believe they will be in this order, so I believe it will be Mason, then Gurung, then Shackleton at the back of the grid, which is very unfortunate for Ethan Shackleton, of course, because that means that he's going to be behind the drivers with the qualifying bands, but the two Mercedes gaining a position. And they will lock out that fifth row of the grid, I believe, as it stands. But it's very, very lucky indeed that they've been able to make their way through on Ethan Shackleton. I will go back to talking about the standings so nobody can interrupt me now. We've got... well, as I was saying, Ethan Shackleton has made his way past Alexis Mason in the standings. Matthew Gatches finds himself in 8th place ahead of Harrison Robinson. Leandro Ratto rounds out the top 10 alongside Aaron Petto, who will not be joining us tonight. Regan Harding in 12th place. Dan Riley 1 point behind him. Brian Moore 1 point behind him. Connor Stewart-Woodard 1 point behind him. And then Vickel, Stone and Paul Gurung round out the field. Paul Gurung picking up that one singular point to put him on those standings. But Connor Stewart-Woodard and Brian Moore is a teammate battle that goes under the radar sometimes, and I think it might be one that lights up today with Connor Stewart-Woodard just the 1 point behind, but with a real opportunity here today.
Yeah, of course. We talk about the Aston Martin battle quite a lot. We don't talk about the Kickstarter one as often. I guess, we see them a little bit less on track as they usually do in their own thing. However, the brand new driver, Ollie Corbett, is now sitting in between them. So he's kind of got involved in that fight. Connor obviously being over half a second ahead of his team at the moment. He'd be quite happy about that. But yeah, what role is Ollie going to play in that little championship fight? Of course, we are now in the second half of the season. We've just done our mid-season break and we are here for another 7 races, and this will determine who wins the championship, and of course will determine the outcome of those little battles throughout the pack. I think there's a battle with the Williams as well, although no, there's not, is it? No, Harrison has left. I completely forgot about that. So no teammate battle within the Williams. Regan will be just looking just to get as many points as he can for that team. But yeah, this is an exciting rest of the season ahead, and I think Alexander Vickel, of course, we've seen some good points come up in the last few races. That didn't make any sense, but yeah, he'll be looking to try and get involved in that fight as well. And of course, with his teammate not being here for the last 3 races for some unknown reason, he'll have a really good chance of actually, of overtaking his teammate and hopefully going for those kickstabbers as well, I'm sure.
Yeah, the opportunity is there for all of the drivers if they want it to be able to make their way up further up the order, of course, with Andrew Chenkovan with those 172 points. Everywhere else, though, is very up for grabs. And Owen Boldero is currently going for that pole position, but he has invalidated in Ascari. He was, though, improving, and it is an open book between the top 3 as to who's going to be able to take it. Regan has improved by 0.3 of a second in the second sector. That means that he's improved by 0.4 of a second in that second sector alone, because the first one, he was down by 1/10, so he should be able to improve. But he is about 0.7 off the back of Burtwelly at the moment, so it's unlikely that the Williams is going to be able to make his way through and fight for that pole position, but you never know how badly he messed up that final sector. It's a huge opportunity here today for the Irishman, and he comes to the line and he gets a 1:19.121, so he goes within 0.2 of a second of Burtwelly, and he feels as though there's more in that lap time. I would imagine there certainly is more in the lap time. Ollie Matthews has not improved. He's invalidated on the lap time. It has the Aston Martin, who currently sits at the top of the field. Burtwelly around the final corner. He's going to be going once again. The sole V-carb here this evening. Of course, Lucas Aracini not attending at the race around Monza. So Burtwelly is going to have his work cut out to keep the constructors' standings alive for themselves. Of course, they are 35 points off the back of Aston Martin at the moment. Aston Martin themselves, who are going to pick up a huge haul. So Bert's going to try and keep them within range. I don't think they've got anywhere in terms of the way of pressure coming from behind in the Williams team, who are 99 points off the back. But Burtwelly still needs to set himself up well and still needs to set his team up with an opportunity to maybe charge for the top 2 late on. It's a 1/10.5 up in the first sector from himself, so he is going to be fully in the fight for that pole.
Absolutely, yeah. Burtwelly got there's purple sector 2 on his outlap, I believe, which is, unless my data's wrong, which is very odd. So yeah, got a lot of pace in that car, and of course he's up as it currently stands. And I can confirm the data's wrong because it is not matching up with what is going on the screen. So yeah, he's got pace there. He's only a 10th, or less than a 10th. Apologies, yeah. Give him the credit where it's due. It's 500ths off Owen Boldero. and only just over a tenth from the lead. So he has a great chance of pole position here, and I'm sure he very much wants it. As I say, we've seen Bert not being able to really capitalise on some races as we've been going through the season. But could this be the time where he gets pole? Could he at least get provisional pole for the time being? It is gonna be a provisional pole. It's 4 tenths up on Ollie Matthews. 3 purple sectors there from Bert Welly. So that's a fantastic lap from him. And he'll be hoping he can hold on to that with 3 minutes remaining.
He certainly will do. And Ollie Matthews was able, though, to get a 10th and, about 700ths of a second into his previous time. So there is opportunities here for these drivers if they so decide to take them. And Bert Welly at the moment is going to hold that pole position. There is a 2.2 tenth gap between the top two at the moment. Ollie Matthews was ready to bridge it, but he invalidated in the final sector. What can the other Ollie Corbett, do as he starts on his lap at the moment? A 1 minute 20.089, of course, flying the flag for McLaren for the first time this season. Is one of the drivers racing in the Papaya team, and he's going to be hoping to take that opportunity and run with it to stay further up the order. Of course, at the moment they've lost down to 25 points. They've dropped down to 6th place. Ollie has improved by 0.034 in the first sector. He needs to find 3.5 tenths of a second if he wants to challenge with Connor Stewart Woodard for the top 5 and the top half of this order, but at the moment finds himself in 6th. He would be alongside Connor at the start of the race, but that is barring Brian Moore, Alexander Vickel, and of course Alexis Mason, who was not retired from the session. That is barring those two from improving in front of him, and he's found 0.38 of a second. So there is the improvement that he wanted to get. He's going to bridge the gap between Connor Stewart Woodard and Regan Harding. If he can hook this lap up, Alexander Vickel, somebody who'll be hoping to challenge with him, has just started on a lap time. This will be the final lap time in this session for Corbett, and he's going to come around the final corner to set his last challenge. Where can he go with regard to the rest of the field? It's going to be a 1 minute 19.859, a good lap that gets him within a tenth of Connor Stewart Woodard, but not quite within the fight for the top 5.
Yeah, he would have been hoping to, of course, get involved with the fight ahead of him. He's so close to Connor Stewart Woodard, so that's going to annoy him, I'm sure, being that close and not being able to quite do it. But, of course, we're yet to see the final runs from Brian Moore and from Alexander Vigel, who, of course, we are on board with now. Can they also get involved in that fight? There's a second gap between Ollie and Alexander at the moment, but that's not an impossible gap to bridge. But he is currently down, over a tenth down on his best time, so it may be slightly too much for me. And he's gone into the wall, so absolutely, he's on the exit of Ascari there, so I can safely say that is not going to be an improvement from Alexander Vickel. So it leaves just Brian Moore to make an improvement. Of course, Connor Stewart Woodard could still improve. Yeah, he is just starting his lap, and he could improve a bit further up the field. He's not miles away from Regan Harding, not miles away from Owen Baldero, but I think that'd be a big ask for the Kick Saubers. But yeah, so much going on. So much can still change, but it's on an outlap for another lap. Could he go faster? And Ollie Matthews, of course, we get to see if he can go any faster. And I will just apologise before I continue. I did realise I was using the wrong microphone, so that's probably why I sounded a bit, I don't know what I sounded like. But I'm sure it wasn't great. It's not a broadcast microphone, so it's not really designed for that. And you probably heard some background noise as Connor Stewart Woodard has invalidated over the De La Rosa chicane. So there'll be no improvement from Connor, unfortunately. The pressure getting just too much, it would seem, for Connor. But Owen Baldero will go down towards Ascari. And it will be the final time as the checkered flag is now waving. Alexander Vickel has taken a checkered flag. So has Bert Welly. So he didn't make it, actually, on his outlap to get a final run in. But he's got a fantastic timing at the moment. So it might well be enough. Will it be enough as Owen Baldero goes across the line? It won't be enough as Owen Baldero improves by 200ths of a second on pole. Apologies, he's improved a lot more on his own time. Regan Harding does improve by 2 attempts. Won't go any further. Ollie Matthews has invalidated. No, it's Connor Stewart has invalidated. So Ollie Matthews is still on that. Brian Moore, will he get a toe from his teammate here? I don't think his teammate is really doing enough if he was trying to do that. It is an improvement for Brian Moore to a 1:23.20. But will Ollie Matthews do enough to take pole position?
He's going to have a look to do so. He at least wants the front row of the grid with his teammate, of course, setting that lap time just about good enough to beat Bert Welly by 0.019. Ollie Matthews has improved in the first 2 sectors. It's only the 2 Ollies to go in this qualifying session. Bert Welly didn't do enough. Is he going to be knocked off the front row of the grid? No, he's not. Ollie Matthews finds 0.2 of a second, which is not enough to usurp the V-carb and go onto the front row of the grid. He will start from third. Bert Welly will start from second, and Ollie Corbett has not improved. So we're going to have our grid for today's race, and it will be topped by an Aston Martin, but it's not the Aston Martin that took the initiative at the start of the session. It will be Owen Boldero, who managed to hold himself at the line and just keep those nerves in check. He takes pole position with Bert Welly in second place. Ollie Matthews will take third, and well, they'll all be within a tenth of each other. Regan Harding finds himself in fourth place. Connor Stewart-Woodard in fifth, and Ollie Corbett will be alongside him on the third row of the grid. Brian Moore, Alexander Vickel, Alexis Mason, Paul Garung and Ethan Shackleton will round out the 11-car field. But we're going to have an Italian Grand Prix underway, and this is looking like it's going to be one of the greatest fights for the lead in an APC race, at the very least, this season.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we love Andrew Chenkovan. Of course, he is an amazing driver. He is one of the best drivers we've ever had in the league, and of course, we love having him drive him. However, we can't deny that having him off for a week is going to be a recipe for a spicy race. And of all the tracks, Monza as well, what a track for him to miss and to let these drivers all have a go at the win. But yeah, I mean, Bert Welly, as we've said, he's not always had it the easiest this season. As I can let you know that somebody has readied up already. So we are 20 seconds of the formation lap. I don't know who's done that, but I'm sure somebody will let me know. But yeah, Bert Welly's struggled throughout this season. So he's going to be very happy with that, and he's going to be hoping to convert that to a win. Of course, the Aston Martins are on fantastic form this season, and they'll be hoping to finish off with a 1-2. And they're going to hope that Ethan Shackleton makes another mistake in the race so that they can capitalise and get a good result and catch up in the Teams Championship. Of course, there's quite a gap at the moment, but it's not a gap that's too big to close before the end of the season. So as we head on to the formation lap, we will see how this one will pan out. And Regan, of course, someone who hasn't had a podium here at all and actually struggled for podiums in other leagues. He's been wanting that podium. He's not far off. So an instant ahead can mean that a podium is on the cards.
A podium could very potentially be on the cards for Regan Harding, and he's going to hope that his strategy is going to usurp everybody else here today in terms of the session that we're going to have coming up in just a couple of moments' time. And we are on the formation lap, so we'll take the opportunity and we will be taking you trackside just to have a look at the 11 cars that we have out on our circuit. And of course, we're going to be having 11 cars out on the circuit here today. It's going to be green flag running in just a few moments' time, and Owen Boldero is taking his time to get going. And in fact, he's crashed into the wall. Good start from Owen Boldero, and he's managed to disqualify himself and his own teammate. In fact, that was an intentional decision because they've worked something out, and I don't know if they're in the right or not, but they've apparently worked out that they're going to be getting their tyre temperatures better than if they did the whole formation lap. Or I think it resets to similar, but then they have no tyre wear. So that's what the idea is there for the two Aston Martins, taking each other out in the formation lap, hoping for their purposes that's the only time they'll take themselves out throughout the entire course of the race.
Yeah, I think that's definitely purposely done. According to my data, and obviously this can change because the game will reset itself at the end of the formation lap, their tyre temps are dropping. So I'm not 100% sure at the moment, but of course, the way the game works, when we get to the end of the formation lap, you guys see a nice graphic that says green flag, and at that point is when it has reset the game, and the tyre temps may well reset. So we'll have to wait and see. I've got the data up, and I'll wait and see if that happens. But yeah, it could just be a theory. But there's a kick salvage. Connor Stewart-Woodard is also in the wall, so they're all struggling. They've obviously all running very low wings here, which is the obvious setup for such a high speed, low downforce, low drag track. But they're all struggling on the formation lap. Luckily, damage doesn't stick on the formation lap, so they'll be very pleased about that. But yeah, they need to be a bit careful as we go into the race. As Connor's now facing the wrong way. Yep, no idea what happened there. But yeah, as we go into the race, they need to be careful to not lose the back end and go into the wall at any point. As actually, Bert Welly has also missed his box. So yes, but the driver lights are about to go on.
Yeah, he's been reset in his grid position, so he'll be starting slightly further back, which can have a huge effect as we head to the green flag running. But the green flag is being waved. We are going to be getting the 5 red lights coming on. The drivers are ready.
And the action gets underway now. It's a great launch from Owen Boldero. He's going to cut across Burtwelly into the first corner. Ollie Matthews is going to try and pull alongside, but he's not going to have enough of an overspeed. So it will be Owen Boldero leading the way. And on the inside line, it'll be Alexis Mason trying to get through on all of these drivers. A little bit of ghosting for Connor Stewart-Woodard. And that means that he's going to let her through. And she's going to take places all the way up to 4th place, potentially even 3rd on this race start. If she can get past Regan Harding. Ollie Matthews hasn't had a great start at all. He's dropped down to 5th place. And Alexis Mason looks to the podium and will get to the podium on the inside of the De La Roggia chicane. Incredible start from the Mercedes. That has to be the most supreme launch we've had throughout the course of the season, and one of the most supreme launches I've seen on this game. Connor Stewart-Woodard with a poor exit might be under pressure from his own teammate, but after the first 2 sectors, it's Owen Boldero that leads, and Alexis Mason trying to get back in the DRS of Burtwelly in 3rd.
What a wild start. How the hell is Alexis Mason in 3rd position? She did start on the medium tyres. Ollie and Regan are on the hards, but that was... I have no idea how that's happened. Owen Boldero, as you said, a fantastic launch, and he needed that, of course. Burtwelly, though, is there, and now Alexis Mason... I'm still baffled by this, because they all thought that Alexis Mason having the quali ban, they all had a chance. Alexis Mason said, no, you bloody don't. I am here to have a go on this. Turn 1. Connor Stewart-Woodard did cut off, I believe it was Connor Stewart-Woodard actually, could have been either of the kickstabbers, but from what I saw, it was Connor Stewart-Woodard. Cut off Ollie Corbett, which is why Connor ghosted. He then went wide in the first Lesmo, which is another reason why Connor struggled on that start. And of course, his teammate had a chance to have a go at him, but he defended from his teammate, which seemed like a bit of a short-sighted thing to do. But Ollie Matthews now will have a go on Regan Harding, and he's going to go all the way around the outside, and he's going to make that one stick into the De La Roggia. So good job from Ollie there. He's on a recovery drive now. He'll want to try and get back in the DRS of Alexis Mason, but it's going to be a big ask. But them hard tyres will come into the road. Ollie is now the lead hard tyre runner, so we'll be hoping it won't take too long for his tyres to come in, as Brian Moore there runs very wide in the first Lesmo. So both kickstart were struggling in the Lesmos, but the Mercedes of Alexis Mason having no struggles whatsoever.
As Burtwelly takes the race lead, as Owen Boldero, I think, sacrificed that position with the DRS. He realised it wasn't quite worth it to make the fight, and he'll be making it back down the back straight. But I think he'll be wanting that DRS as Alexis Mason within range of these 2 drivers and ready to really make an assault, make a launch onto the drivers right at the very top of the field. There is going to be a second splitting the top 3, and there's a second splitting Alexis Mason and Ollie Matthews in 3rd and 4th, as Matthews with the fastest lap of the race, and the 2 kick-Saubers swapping. Is there going to be a move for the race lead into the first corner? No, there's not. Owen Boldero stays behind, but he does get pretty close, and these 2, I think, need to work together to ward off Alexis Mason, who is very fast charging from the back of the order, and it's going to be within 0.6 of a second. But I think these 2 have to work together to make sure that they can ward off the threat of Mason behind. And I think there's going to be an element as well of Alexis Mason coming under pressure from Ollie Matthews. I think it might be a case today of sacrificing Matthews' race, knowing that he's got the pace to catch up late on, and it's just about trying to ward off one of the threats for this race lead. Because I think Owen Boldero will feel as though he can fight with Burtwelly. I think there's a little bit less of that confidence boost when he's fighting Alexis Mason.
Yeah, of course, they do need to work together. Alexis Mason is all over the back of Owen Boldero now. Alexis Mason having set the purple sector 1 on this lap currently, but a slower sector 2. Fastest lap currently with Ollie Matthews, so that will put him in good stead. He's not far off the back now, and actually coming out of Ascari there, look, if you look at the time, he is now pulled within a second. So he is in prime position here because he's on the hard tyres, and he is in the DRS train of the lead runners. So this puts Ollie in a fantastic position here to potentially go for the win, or at least the podium, as Alexis Mason and Owen Boldero, the friends in real life, will go side by side. And she will get past him quite easily there. I'm sure he didn't put up much of a fight. Ollie Matthews and Owen Boldero will need to work together at some point, I'm sure, being on different strategies to secure at least one of them on the podium. Potentially both of them, as Connor Stewart and Brian Moore go side by side, but Connor backs out of that one with Ollie all over the back of him as well. And Paul Garung is there with Alexandru. However, yeah, it's the front pack we are currently leading with, and how the hard runners are already with the medium tyre runners. So Regan's there as well. So have we hit the change point already? Surely not, but they look like they're a lot faster on lap 4, and they will soon be battling for the lead positions.
Well, one of the possible options for strategy here today is a two-stop strategy. You could go medium, medium, hard, or you could go, of course, just with 2 stint to the mediums, 1 stint to the hard. So they might be pushing those hards very, very long in this race, knowing that they've got 2 mediums towards the end of the race. The first pit stop, if they're going for those 2 stops, will be lap number 8. But I think most of them will be going for the undercuts, for the mediums to the hards on lap number 11, or what would be the overcut on the two-stop strategy, just taking those tyres very, very long indeed, or as far as they can take them into this stint. But at the moment they are pushing those hard compound tyres as far as they'll possibly go. But I think Owen Boldero's done his teammate a solid there. He's fought Alexis Mason so hard that it's allowed the opportunity for those two to catch up behind. So we might be seeing a swap in the next couple of laps between Boldero and Ollie Matthews, as they feel as though the medium runner is going to have to succumb the position to the hard runner because he's just simply quicker. That will be the definition of when they make the move. That will be the decision that they'll be making. And over the last lap, Owen Boldero was 0.4 of a second slower than Ollie Matthews in the third place to the fourth place position, so potentially the move could be made at some point soon. Alexis Mason quicker than both of them, quicker than all of these drivers in the top group in fact, but only 400ths ahead of Burt Welly, so there's still an opportunity for all of these drivers to really kick it with the rest of the order, and I'm sure we'll be seeing them trying to fight with them very, very soon indeed. Lap 5 of 27, these are absolutely flying by, and it might be the move for Ollie Matthews on the back of Owen Boldero if he decides to go for it, but no, he stays behind the two teammates working together. 0.5 of a second splitting Boldero and Mason, just 3 splitting Mason and Burt Welly as they headed into the Ascari chicane.
Absolutely. Ollie Corbett, the newbie, is on 2 warnings at the moment for corner cut, so he needs to be very careful about that. The Aston Martins need to be very careful here to make sure that Owen Boldero does not hold up Ollie, and so Ollie does not lose DRS range to Alexis Mason and Burt Welly ahead. And I'm sure they can work together. It looks like that's happened just now. It has. So yeah, that swap has now happened. And Ollie is free to go after the top 2. And Regan is still very much there as well, being very, very patient. We've seen great driving from Regan. He's a patient driver, and he will hang out there and hope to get a podium as well. But seeing this lead 5-pack, nobody's run away yet. There's 5 of them, all currently battling it out for the lead. Any one of these guys could take it. And yeah, it's going to be a fun one to the very end. I can't wait to see who's going to take it. Is it going to be Alexis Mason? Of course, we've seen win before, twice on track, but only one that counted. Or is it going to be one of the Aston Martins? Again, they have been on the podium, but neither of them have taken a win yet. And Burt Welly, I don't want to say this with confidence, but I think Burt hasn't got a podium this season. Oh, you're probably gonna correct me there, but not one that was memorable, at least, should we say. Apologies, Burt, if you're listening and you do have a podium. Purple sector 1 for Ollie Matthews, so he is rapid now on those hard tyres, and he's going to hunt down the lead. But of course, been on a different strategy. Anything can happen later on. Once those drivers come off the medium tyres and go onto the hard tyres, a lot could change. Safety cars could come out. A lot of things could happen that could completely change the order. But as it currently stands, Ollie Matthews is absolutely rapid and is looking to take P2 at the end of this straight.
Yeah, and just to answer your question, no podium for Burt Welly this season. His best finishes are 4th place in both Saudi Arabia and Austria, as we might be seeing a side-by-side between Ollie Matthews and Alexis Mason. Undercut for Owen Boldero and for Connor Stewart-Woodard. So I think it might well be a two-stop strategy for those drivers. It's definitely a two-stop strategy for Ethan Shackleton because he came in for another set of the medium compounded tyres. So it's medium to medium for himself, and so that basically locks himself into his two-stop strategy. In fact, it does, because he has to take different tyres unless it's going to rain towards the end of the race, which, spoiler alert, it is not going to be raining towards the end of the race. So that is going to be a forced two-stop strategy from Shackleton, showing that it is a viable strategy and it is one that the drivers are considering, as we'll be seeing later on who is going to commit to that one at the moment. We've got 3 of them who've decided to go for it: Boldero, Stewart-Woodard and Shackleton, as this will be the first time that Alexis Mason tries to challenge for the lead of the race. It'll be the first time that Ollie Matthews really tries to challenge, with Alexis Mason for first and for second as well. But Alexis Mason backs out, and so does Ollie Matthews, as we've got yellow flags out on the circuit. Alexander De Vickers hadn't had a spin out of the exit of the Lesmos. He's going to let the Aston Martin through and then rejoin the circuit. And, well, there's a penalty for Paul Garung in the meantime. Who's going to bail on this lap? Will Mason commit to the two-stop strategy? It looks as though they're going to commit to it. It looks as though they're going to commit to another lap of racing at least. And they're going to go on to lap number 8. Still locked in battle. Still locked in the fight. Nobody making a move into the first corner. All threatening.
Yeah, I think Alexis Mason actually wasn't going for a move there. I think she was just going for a defensive shape to stop Ollie coming through into Ascari. And then she tried to bait Bertolelli into the pits by pretending that she was going to go in, and then last minute changed her mind. Wouldn't change her mind. I think she knew she wasn't going to go in and decided to go another lap. So an undercut attempt from Owen Boldero. This could be genius, or this could be a big mistake. Of course, he's on those fresh hard tyres. And I mean, it's yet to see if he's trying for the one stop. I'm going to assume this is a two stop. However, again, I'm not an expert with these things, but we'll see as in the pit lane comes Alexandra Vickel after that spin. Not quite sure if he got damage. Yep, a wing change is occurring. So I assume he did get damage. No idea what that spin was about, but that is not going to be great for his race. And he's now going to come out behind Ethan Shackleton, who's, yeah, as you say, currently stopped once, but has to stop again as he's on a second set of medium tyres. Not sure what happened to Ethan actually on the opening lap, just to quickly mention that. He only did one lap on medium tyres, so that stop would have been for damage repair for sure, but not quite sure what occurred there. May well be seeing that one in the stewards. Will anyone come in to react? That's what I'm looking for. React to Boldero. It's going to be a no. Will anyone change order going into turn one? Very possibly.
Yeah, very possibly indeed, but in the end, all of them deciding that they just want to stay behind. By the way, just a note on Alexis Mason, why she might have been stepping out into the first corner, and that might be because the engine revs in the car do heat up everything in the car, so it gives you a little bit more tyre wear, it gives you a little bit more tyre temperature, which is fine, but there's a certain extent to which that can happen before it can start to harm your car, and harm your straight line speed, which is the crucial thing they'll be looking out for, and I think that's what Mason is trying to manage at the moment, trying to manage that straight line speed. It's just to make sure that she can step out of the way in case she wants to make that move up into those podium positions. Of course, currently sits waiting in behind, or make that move even into the lead of the race. Currently finds herself on those podium positions, in fact, in second place and 3/10 off the back of Bert Welly, hoping to make the move some point soon. Not doing so right now, as we're a third of the way through the race, and we might be seeing more pit stops on this lap. Of course, we've had a couple of these drivers from the lead group bail, and they will be trying to set their laps for those two-stop strategies to work out. They have to be really, really pushing at this point in the stint to make them work. They're going to go on to another lap. Ollie Matthews close to the back of Alexis Mason, and I think Alexis Mason might have duped them out here, because if I was reading correctly earlier on, she said the two-stop was safer, but she might be going for that one-stop strategy after all. And well, speaking of the times that the drivers spoke pre-race, we've got one pre-race interview for ourselves right in there, and it'll be Owen Boldero. And actually, in fact, Bert Welly as well. So Owen Boldero submitted his as we were waiting to go. Bert Welly, of course, our leader of the race at the moment, as Alexis Mason might come under pressure. No, Ollie Matthews stays behind. Bert Welly said he was feeling pretty good about the last race, of course, as he gained 7 positions, and he's looking to do pretty well here today. Of course, started on the front row of the grid, so he can't gain 7 positions, but still doing not too bad. He hasn't been able to practice, hasn't raced in Monza for a while, and he said if it rains today, it will be glory. Well, it still might be glory. He was hoping for good points, but at the moment he leads the race. Owen Boldero, the other driver to come in to the pre-race interview box. He has mixed feelings about the last race, but he managed to get a podium in the end, so all is said and done at the end of the day. He has no idea how he's feeling about the Monza race, but he's expecting a double podium, or thinking it could potentially be on, considering the fact that neither of the Ferraris were racing today, although one of them did race and he's not exactly had the greatest time of it. We'll head on to lap number 11, and this will be the pit window opening for the one-stoppers, so maybe these 4 just going on to it, although of course Ollie Matthews and Regan Harding both on the hard set of tyres. They will be the faster tyre at this point in time.
Yeah, I tell you what though, this is harming. As Alexis Mason loses the back end into turn 1, and Ollie runs straight into the back of her, and actually has a missing end plate now. So that is not great for Ollie Matthews there. Completely no one's fault. She just lost the rear end there and completely struggled. Obviously decided to brake quite late, and the rear over-rotated, and actually that's a front left lockup for Alexis Mason there. So that is not going well for Alexis at the moment, and that is not good news for Ollie Matthews, unfortunately. Regan now will need to get past Ollie as soon as he can to stay in the DRS of the lead 2. But as I was saying, this is not great news for Ollie Matthews or Regan, because they're on the faster tyre right now. They are the faster drivers, but they are not able to get past the medium runners. It's 40% damage to the front left end plate of Ollie Matthews, so he's not going to be very pleased about that one. But again, as I say, no fault of anyone there. Alexis just lost the back end. Ran out of talent in that corner, it would seem, which is quite rare for Alexis, it has to be said. And Ollie suffered from that. So been on the hard tyres. This is going to harm Ollie's race for the next few laps until the next pit stop as he goes wide through Parabolica there. Clearly struggling with low front end grip as both medium runners in the top two now have pit and they have got out of the way of them hard runners. But Regan, unfortunately, is not going to be able to get past at this stage.
No, he's not. He's going to stay out at the moment. So is Ollie Matthews, who is going to take the lead of this race. So a little bit of a silver lining for himself. Of course, whilst he still has that damage and he's still going to try and continue on with the damage, he is going to be going in with that damage, which will still see him ahead of Regan Harding. One of the benefits of this, one of the weird benefits of taking wing damage is you can actually go a little bit faster. A lot of these drivers will be running 0-0 wings, and with that wing damage, he'll be running even lower wings because, of course, he has less wing on the car. So it could bring a benefit, even if it's going to lose him a lot of time in the corners. But lap number 12, and we will be seeing these two think about their strategy right now. They won't be thinking about each other anymore. The gap's too big between them, so they'll be thinking purely about strategy. And at the moment, it's very much looking as though it's going to be the Aston Martin teams trying to control the strategy here today. 5.8 the difference between Owen Boldero and Burt Welly. Of course, Boldero is on a two-stop strategy while Burt and Alexis Mason must be on the one-stop, but still the opportunity is rife for them to make their way through, and they're going to be trying to fight later on in this race. Owen Boldero on the back of Paul Garung right now wants to make his way past the Mercedes as Ollie Corbett takes his first penalty of the race. Boldero following right in behind. There's even contact between the two as they are bump drafting, and on the exit of the corner, Garung doesn't have the grip, but Boldero does, and he's going to make his way through. And in fact, Paul Garung peels off into the pit lane.
Yeah, so as we can see, the undercut has worked initially for Owen Boldero, so he has a 4.6 second gap currently, but we're expecting another stop, I would say, unless there's a safety car. So yeah, it's going to be tight as to whether Owen can remain on the podium, but he is currently eking the gap down on the hard runners ahead of him, Regan and his teammate Ollie Matthews, so anything could still happen. But yeah, the undercut was massive initially, so it proves it can work, it proves the concept, but being on different strategies right now, it's not really going to mean much at this stage. So we're not really going to know the real order of these cars until probably the last few laps, as Brian Moore gets ahead of Ethan Shackleton. So Ethan Shackleton really struggling. So we're seeing the Ethan Shackleton from the first few races once again, it would seem, as he's getting swallowed up by the pack. Of course, Ethan Shackleton of the last couple of races, you know, he's shown some great pace, the pace that we know the champion of season, I'm going to get this wrong, I want to say season 4 champion. Yeah, had some great pace in the last few races, but now he is falling down the order once again in race 8 as newcomer Ollie Corbett goes past, and it looks quite easy for him at this stage. So not quite sure what's going on with Ethan Shackleton, unfortunately. It looks like he's just struggling with this one as he loses the rear end through a Ascari. So that was very almost a straight into the wall moment. How he saved that one, I do not know, but he's currently outside a second to Ollie Corbett, although he's actually just pulled that back. So whether Ollie can gap him back again, which he has done in Ascari, then Ethan is not going to be able to close that gap back up this lap, and maybe not at all, as he does pull into the pits and he locks up all the tyres as he slows down for the pit speed limit line. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see what happens there. But this is going to drop him behind Paul Garung, but not behind Alexandre Fickle, as he is quite a distance behind. And Regan then gets a 3-second time penalty for multiple corner cutting. And I'm not going to say it because he will message me afterwards. But yes, yeah, I'm going to say nothing about that.
Yeah, unfortunate there for all of the drivers to be having those moments as we've ticked over halfway through the race. And, well, at the moment, it's Ethan Shackleton who's just... Hang on, I'm going to sneeze. So if I cut in there, and if I suddenly cut away, that's because I've muted my mic because I'm about to sneeze. But either way, it'll be Ethan Shackleton, as it's now gone, in the top 10, just about. But I think he'll be disappointed with the performance. I think he'll be disappointed with the performance over the last few weeks as well. But, of course, I think it may be a case of being on the wrong setup. Being at Monza on the wrong setup is potentially the hardest circuit to make that mistake on. As Burt Welly, fast lap of the race, Regan Harding into the pit lane. So we'll see where the Williams is going to be ending up. Of course, he's made the switch onto a set of the medium compounder tyres. He'll be going to the end of the race, 12 laps on them, so it's going to be a long stint, and he comes out in 5th place. The closest fight on the circuit at the moment will be Burt Welly against Alexis Mason, and this could be the fight for the race win if they can catch up to the 2 Aston Martins. Of course, Ollie Matthews has not boxed yet, but his teammate will be doing everything he can to make sure that Ollie Matthews has that gap when he does decide to box.
Yeah, Burt Welly's fastest lap. Actually, it's Paul Garung now with the fastest lap. But Burt Welly's previous fastest lap was 1.7 seconds faster than the lap that Ollie Matthews set on that same lap. I said the word lap quite a lot there. I'm sure that will be clipped somewhere, like the good old curbing clip, which we very much enjoyed on Instagram a few weeks ago. But the fastest lap here currently from Paul Garung, 1:21.5. That is 2.3 seconds faster than Ollie Matthews' last lap. Now, Paul Garung, of course, isn't hassling Ollie Matthews at this stage, but it does go to show that fresh medium tyres are going to be a whole different ball game for Ollie Matthews when he eventually puts those on. He's currently on the 15-lap old hard tyres and is going on another lap. So, yeah, it's going to be, well, it's definitely going to be a one-stop. And a safety car right now would save Ollie Matthews' I was going to say the word race. I was going to say a different word there. We'll save his race in terms of going for the lead. But I think he's going to have really good tyres. It's going to be very, very fast. But is he going to have enough to battle for the lead again? I'm not too sure. As you say, the battle for the effective race lead right now is Alexis Mason and Burt Welly. And Burt Welly, of course, being ahead. Burt would love a win here. I'm sure Burt would love a win. But it's a purple sector 1 for Alexis Mason. And that is half a second faster than Burt Welly ahead.
It certainly is, although over the last time it was Burt Welly's previous best, previous personal best at least, so they are very much swapping that pace. Who's going to be the fastest into Sector 2? Well, it doesn't matter because Alexis Mason is going to go for the move anyway. With the DRS, she's going to try and go for the inside line on Burt Welly. Can't quite take the opportunity. Will be trying to go around the outside, maybe in towards turn number 1, which will be the prime overtaking opportunity on this circuit. And she's going to try and be close once again. In the second sector, it was a 0.6 of a second split, but take that with a pinch of salt because that is with the DRS as well. That would have had a dramatic effect on that one. Alexis Mason now 4/10 off the back as Owen Boldero into the pit lane once again. He saw Burt Welly and Alexis Mason coming, decided to bail before he had to get tangling up in the fight and lose a lot of time. Alexis Mason potentially looking for a move into the first corner. Bit of a lock up there from Alexis. There's been a couple of mistakes today, but in the end, no real mistakes made that have had a huge effect. Just sits in behind, stays in what is now 3rd place.
Yeah, so I remember Boldero not doing the team game of trying to hold up those drivers to give Ollie the gap as they run side by side for the Delaroches again. There, that. Well, that said that was close. It wasn't close. You couldn't get any closer than that. They were actually touching each other, but I think they've both come out of that without any damage. I'd be very pleased about that. But yeah, Owen Boldero had the opportunity to hold them up and give Ollie more time. Wasn't able to do so, but currently they're holding themselves up. It's a 16-second gap between Ollie Matthews and Burt Welly. The pit lane delta here. I don't know what it is. I thought I had it up there, but I don't. So, yeah, I'm not quite sure where Ollie's going to come out. I'm going to assume between Alexis and Regan. And I'll tell you what, that would be best case scenario for him. If he gets between Regan and Connor, then that would be not the end of the world. He can obviously try and hunt them down, but that would mean 2 cars to overtake. No, 1 car to overtake. Clearly my maths isn't working there, but we'll wait and see actually what's going to happen because the safety car can still happen here. We've seen spins from the likes of Alexander Vickel, so anything can happen. But as Alexis Mason goes wide again, so struggling into the first corner as Ethan Shackleton gets a 3-second time penalty just to add to his worries. He's currently getting this time out. Yeah, brain went again there. But yeah, it's this battle for the effective race lead at the moment, which we're currently keeping an eye on. But yeah, a lot can happen. Ollie Corbett, the new driver, is sticking with Brian Moore, and I'm sure they'll want to have a little tussle at some point before the end of this race.
I'm sure they will. And these two have been having a tussle for the last lap. In fact, Alexis Mason tried to go onto the grass out of the exit of the Ascari chicane to make her way through. Didn't quite do so as Owen Boldero picks up a penalty. That could be crucial later on. Keep an eye on the deltas between all of the drivers, as these two are going to be fighting throughout all of the corners. They went side by side for the majority of that previous lap, in fact. But Burtwelly held firm, and Alexis Mason trying to make her way through on the exit, trying to go very, very close to the inside line as the Mercedes going to go into the parabolic, but just backs out. Wants the DRS on the exit of the corner to drag her through, to drag her ahead. But is it going to be enough momentum, or did she brake too late into the corner? With the DRS once again, it's going to open as she heads over to lap number 20, and both of these drivers are going to continue this fight onwards. In fact, it's lap number 19 they've just crossed over to, but Alexis Mason stays behind for the time being, but got very close between those two drivers for a number of times, and that's the level of respect that you want to see in the racing. Of course, there was rubbing, but as many BTCC fans will tell you, rubbing is racing. She's going to go alongside once again as they head through towards turn number 3, towards Variante della Roggia, and they will remain alongside. Inside line for Mason, another lock-up. No contact between the two on the entry, but there is contact on the exit. Mason tries to stay alongside, can't quite do so. Burtwelly cuts her off as he heads into the first Lesmo, and Alexis Mason forced to stay in third place. She's desperate for this position. It might well come in the next DRS straight. That's what she's going to be hoping for as Paul Garang makes his way through on Ollie Corbett. Can they make their way through? Can they make the swap? But no move just yet. Alexis Mason, though, seems very desperate to make her way through, but I think at this point it's just trying to pounce upon your opportunities, which is what she's doing her best to do as they head down towards Parabolica once again.
Yeah, Bert is not letting this one go easily, is he? He's not having none of that, as she's going to go down the inside into the Parabolica, but not going to be able to pull that one off. So Bert is going to defend this to the death, it would seem. Not literally, I hope, of course, because there will be penalty points for that. But yeah, he's defending this one. He's not going to try and work with her to try and gap, as Ollie Matthews does now pit. So this battling is actually going to massively help Ollie Matthews. Not quite sure where he's going to come out. If you're watching the replay cameras, you're seeing him come out now in fourth position, well ahead of his teammate. I don't quite know how Owen Boldero has fallen so far behind, and now how Connor Stuart Woodard is going past him. So big struggles for Owen Boldero as he's gone wide into turn 1 and has a missing end plate. So not quite sure what's happened to Owen Boldero. He's having a bad time after that fantastic start, and his podium chances are now going to fall down that somewhere. I don't know where I was going with that analogy, but the Regan Harding currently on the podium with a 3-second time penalty. Ollie Matthews, of course, on those fresh medium tyres, will absolutely close that down, I have no doubt, and will get himself back into podium contention, or back into podium position, apologies. But will he be at the battle for one of the top 2 positions? I tell you what, he's got just over 7 laps to hunt down 8 seconds and to be able to give that a go. But it's a second a lap then for Ollie Matthews. Is he going to have enough in the tank?
We shall, of course, see whether he's going to be able to do that as Connor Stuart Woodard and Owen Boldero swap. Don't forget about Boldero. He could make his way into the fight late on if there is any continuous fighting between the top 2, as we've seen so far. We've seen a lot of time hemorrhaged between them as they tried to fight it out, tried to duke it out. Although, in fact, I don't think Burtwelly's been the aggressor here in any way, shape or form. I think he's just been the one on the defence, on the back foot pretty much the whole time. But he's managed to hold on to the position, so absolutely fair play. Very, very strong defensive driving, and very good from Alexis Mason. She's pressuring at the right points. It's just not working. She just needs to continue this pressure onwards, and we shall see where they're going to end up throughout the course of the rest of this race. As into the pit lane comes Connor Stuart, into the pit lane comes Paul Garang. They've had pretty anonymous races, all things considered. These top 2 going to fight it out once again on lap number 21. Is Burtwelly going to be able to hold on once again? Is Alexis Mason going to be able to catch up and be the inside driver into the Ascari chicane? No, Alexis Mason appears to be saving up for one last charge here in Monza, and she'll have it, I reckon, within the next couple of laps, unless she gets the overspeed with the DRS down the main straight.
Yeah, we see those rain lights flashing, which means they both have their battery turned off, and they're all saving it for the long straight here. One thing I reckon we're probably going to see from Alexis at some point, I don't know if she's listening to the stream or not, but if she can't get past organically, like with DRS overtake, like now, which actually she may well do. Bert's gonna defend it as he's done all race. What she might do, she knows that Bert's turning the battery off down that long straight at the back. So she may go for a lap where she doesn't turn it off and uses the opportunity to go past. Because at the moment, as you can see, they're both running very similar strategies. We go into the Della Rosa chicane again. Will Burt try and defend this one? He thought about it, it would seem, but he wasn't able to hold on to it this time. So finally, she'll be saying Alexis Mason takes the lead of the race on lap 22.
Yes, she does, and Burt Welly, he goes from the defender to the aggressor and is going to try and make his way through. It's really a very, very strong opportunity indeed for these two drivers at the top of the field to fight it out, but of course they have to worry about Ollie Matthews behind. Burt Welly going for the switch. He had to go to the outside. That was blocked off, so he went to the inside for the Ascari chicane, which of course became the outside on the exit, and that was where he was able to get the overspeed, but Alexis Mason going wide out of the exit of the chicane, managed to pull alongside and pull back ahead with the overspeed. Burt Welly to the inside line and Parabolica trying to hold on. Alexis Mason trying to remain in the slipstream behind because she's going to try and pick up the DRS down the main straight once again, and indeed she'll have it, so she'll try and fight back through. Is this going to be the move once again for Alexis Mason to the lead? She'll go to the inside. She might even go onto the grass here if Burt Welly gives her enough of a squeeze. Doesn't do so. They're going to swap. Alexis Mason's going to try and squeeze him so far to the inside line, and they will be continuously locked in battle on the exit of the corner. Who's got the overspeed? Who's got the power down quicker? Alexis Mason, and in the background, Ollie Matthews has started to loom.
Ollie Matthews is coming. That sounds like a good film name. That is very similar actually to Don't Forget About Moldera that you mentioned a little while ago. That sounds like a good rap song. Of course, being influenced by Dr. Dre. But yeah, I think we should make those at the end of the season. Tell you what, in the season, between the two seasons, we're going to make the song Don't Forget About Boldero, and we're going to release the film Ollie Matthews is here. So yes. There's a lot going on. I'll tell you what, I am loving this racing action. It's very feisty. It's very, very close, but very fair at this stage. No incidents currently, but they are getting awfully close. So will we go to the end of this race incident-free for the top four? We've got another 4 and a bit laps to find out, but Ollie Matthews is on 3-lap-old medium tyres. The only people with newer tyres are Paul Grung and Connor Stewart Woodard, and similar tyres for Brian Moore and Ollie Corbett. So Regan pulls in then, so he's not going to try and take this to the end as they're going to go side by side again, that being Burt and Alexis Mason chops off Burt's nose then, said I don't think so, not giving you any opportunity. But Ollie Matthews then, 4-lap-old medium tyres compared to 12-lap-old hard tyres, will swing it around the outside and will be ahead of Burt Welly, into the Della Rosa chicane, and will have a go for the win with Alexis Mason just ahead. I have just noticed though, Ollie Matthews did not repair that front wing and is still showing significant pace. So no idea how he's pulling that off. But his teammate Owen Boldero on fresh soft tyres, he's currently down in 9th position after looking like he could potentially battle for the win. He's now going ahead of his friend Brian Moore.
Yeah, he certainly has. Owen Boldero going for fast lap. And just to clarify, I am not having any involvement in a rap song called Ollie Matthews is Coming.
You could feature, that'd be great.
Okay, so you've not picked up on what that means at all. Anyway, Ollie Matthews trying to go for the move on Alexis Mason into Parabolic. Can't quite do so, and I'm sure everybody watching either on the live stream or watching back is also going to have the same opinion as me, and I think you also will when you're watching the post-production.
It's a film. It's a film for Ollie Matthews. It's probably worse, if we're honest. It's the rap song for Owen Boldero.
Okay, a film called Ollie Matthews is Coming. Great. Ollie Matthews is coming, though, onto the rear of the Mercedes of Alexis Mason for the lead, of course, because this is watching racing in the final 3 laps of this one, and it's very much been a race to remember. Probably the best race that we've had all season, and that is exactly what you can get at a race like Monza, at a circuit like Monza, which is so steeped in motor racing history. We've had some unbelievable victories here, and it is really where the racing magic can alight. And we'll see these drivers on the final 3 laps duking it out for the victory. Ollie Matthews 6/10 off the back of Alexis Mason, who's going to be with the DRS opening up and trying to get close enough to make the move, but not going to be close enough just yet on Alexis Mason at the moment. Just sits in behind at the fastest lap. He has headed the way of Ollie Matthews, and he was just under a second quicker even last time out than Alexis Mason in terms of the fight for those podium positions, and a personal best first sector from Bert Welly as well, trying to remain in the fight, and will be doing so successfully at the moment. They'll head down the main straight one more time, and I think there's going to be just a couple more opportunities between those three top drivers.
Yeah, Ollie needs to pull this off very, very quickly. He's not got a lot of time to get ahead of Alexis Mason, because those tire difference, they're gonna balance out. So the older medium tires need less laps to wear the same amount as the hard tires. So he's not got a lot of time to do this. He needs to do this very, very quickly. And it looks like he may give it a go now. He's kept his battery on while Alexis has turned it off. And I think Alexis has now just realised what's happened and has used the overtake to get closer. To gap Ollie Matthews. I will say Bert Welly then just dropping out of DRS range here. So from potentially looking at the win to unfortunately looking like the bottom step of the podium. But I'm sure he'd be very happy with that nonetheless. But to know there was a chance of a win would have been a bit gut-wrenching for him, I'm sure. Ollie Matthews still looking like the fastest driver. He's going to go side-by-side into Ascari route, trying to try around the outside of Alexis Mason. He's not going to pull it off. But we'll have another go into Parabolica. This will be the last lap after this one. It'll be the last chance for Ollie to give this a go. He has got the best tyres, but we know the racecraft for Alexis Mason. So he will try around the outside. It's going to be an audacious move if he pulls that one off. I'll tell you what, if he wins by going around the outside of Parabolica, then he is going to celebrate massively. He's currently taking the lead. I don't quite know who's going to have DRS here. It's not going to be Ollie Matthews, and he's going to go from the lead to third position. They're all in one straight, but Bert Welly is now going to have a go at the lead once again. And all three of them could do. I'll tell you what, I'm going to hand back to you, because you are the commentator. You are the person who does this best. And I'm going to let you take the viewers through the final lap, where there's three drivers who could potentially take the win.
Well, there certainly is, and of course, as you say, Ollie Matthews swapped from first to third to second now, down at the main straight. They're running out of corners to be able to make the opportunities and make the overtakes, and I think Bert Welly has just run a little bit too wide for the final time. I don't think he'll be competing for this race lead. I think Ollie Matthews has one more opportunity, and it will be down this next straight out of the second Lesmo. He's going to open up that DRS. He's going to be about 5 tenths back, so it's going to be all about the ERS management. How much has he got left? How much has Alexis Mason got left? It's going to be 3 tenths between the two drivers as they head to Ascari. That means he's going to have a good exit. That means he's going to be able to set himself up for Parabolica. He went for it last lap. He was able to pull alongside and briefly ahead, and he's got one more corner to go to be able to do the same thing. I think he's going to send it here, you know, regardless of whether he's going to be able to get it on the exit or not. He's going to go in to get it a better turn in, but it's not going to be enough. Alexis Mason has been able to hold on. The rear guard of the Mercedes was just a bit too much, and the victory is taken by the Mercedes once again in the Almost Pro Championship. Ollie Matthews and Bert Welly, close but no cigar in second and third, and then a huge gap back to Regan Harding in fourth place. 22.8 seconds, showing the top level of the top three drivers. Absolutely sensational achievement indeed from those top three, and that is exactly why Andrea Chenkovan should be banned from the league, because it makes good racing. No, it's absolutely incredible drive from the top three. If they can replicate that when Chenkovan is here, then it will be a sensational championship fight. But that will be the second victory of the season for Alexis Mason in 3 races. So a very, very good talent. Ollie Matthews and Bert Welly just about missing out.
Yeah, unfortunate. It could have been a first win in APC for either Ollie Matthews or Bert Welly. So I do feel for them. Alexis, of course, has a win. Technically has 2, as Owen Boldero has left the session. I'm hoping that doesn't mean he's going to drop down the order on our screens. That'd be really annoying. Yeah, you know, Alexis has had her time. She's had her chance, but she decided she wanted another go, and she wanted another taste of the champagne on that top step. So yeah, I feel for them. That's unfortunate. Yeah, they would have absolutely loved to take their first win in APC. But today's not going to be the day, but there's still plenty more chance. We've seen the pace. I mean, that was probably the best race, if not just the best final lap of the season so far. And if we get more of that, then we have got a fantastic second half of the season ahead. points on debut. Well, I say points, a point on debut for Ollie Corbett. So I'm sure he'll be very pleased about that. Owen Boldero, I mean, no idea what happened to him. Was going from potentially winning to the very back in 8th position. So an unfortunate ending for Owen Boldero. But I'm sure we'll see more from him as the season progresses.
See more from him, or hear more from him, as we're going to get the opportunity to speak to him in just a couple of moments' time. But first, it's Alexis Mason taking another victory, under a second ahead of Ollie Matthews and just over a second ahead of Burt Welly in 3rd place. Regan Harding takes 4th, Ethan Shackleton 5th, Connor Stewart-Woodard 6th. Then Paul Garung, Owen Boldero, Brian Moore, Ollie Corbett and Alexander Vickel to round out our order. But, I mean, it's going to be a good opportunity to have a word with the man that ended in 8th place. You asked the question, what happened to Owen Boldero in that race? Owen, answer that for us, please.
A lot is the long of the short. So the pole app came out of nowhere. Don't really know where it came from. But then I got into the race and my tyre wear was, by the time I pitted on lap 6, I was on 63%, which is just a joke. So I went to hards, was actually doing all right on them, and then I boxed again, and then I encountered Connor, who I think was trying to pull over to give me DRS. I'd braked later to try and go for a wider line, and I just ended up hitting him and getting wing damage, which completely ruined me. I was gonna stay out. I went AI for a second because the downside of being at home right now is that I have people coming in and out occasionally. So I went AI for a second, and my AI decided to pit me onto softs, which were about as useful as a chocolate teapot. By the time I didn't even think I was going to make the end on those softs, and I was treating them like a feather duster. The softs were completely useless, but just a genuinely all-round terrible race, and yeah, just really, really frustrating.
Yeah, that's never ever easy when you have a race like that. But of course, the pace was promising, and well, we have after this a straight stretch to the end of the season. We haven't got any more breaks in our calendar, and next time out, we're going to be heading to Azerbaijan. What are the thoughts on that one as we try to turn the focus from a negative to what could potentially be a positive next time out?
I mean, I quite enjoy Baku as a circuit, so hopefully things can be a little bit better than they were here at Monza. I mean, I'm coming off the back of 3 podiums in a row, so I'm just going to take this one on the chin, just as one of them races, and then we'll go again next week.
Yeah, certainly will. And well, have we got anything for Owen, Carl, before we let him go?
2 questions. First one: have you lost a bet? Because I'm trying. You got like about 10 sayings in that interview. I've never heard so many sayings in one go. And the second one is, how the hell? How did you get that start? That start was phenomenal.
Well, my starts have always been one of my strong points. I generally get alongside 1, maybe 2 people off the race start. It's probably one of the only things I'm good at in the F1 games, to be completely honest with you. But I turned on the ERS relatively early, pretty much as soon as I was launched, which I think probably contributed. And yeah, it was just a really, really clean stretch for me into turn 1.
Yeah, that was fantastic. And also, before we let you go, just a quick shout out to Joseph Black's segue there for when he got you in. You didn't hear it, but he did a very, very smooth segue when he pulled you in for an interview. So when you hear that one back, you'll appreciate that. But thank you for your time, and yeah, we look forward to catching you next week when you're finally back on the podium, I'm sure.
Hopefully, I'll see you guys next week.
But yeah.
And that was Owen Boldero, of course, who was in 8th place at the end of that race. And well, I mean, it's almost like I do this quite a lot, and it's almost like I said that and I went, I hope to hell he's in that waiting room. Anyway, somebody else who's in that waiting room is going to be his good friend Brian Moore, who of course finished in and around him. Brian, talk to me about your race.
It went better than I thought, apart from penalties. No, it was an okay race. I had a good battle with Ellis. I mean, first stint, me and Connor worked nicely together, I feel, until his grip sort of just started falling off and had to pit. But, I mean, overall, it was a good race for myself, and well, not just myself, but Sauber in general. And yeah, it wasn't too bad of a race. Could have been a better result, but penalties kind of just made me decide to ease off near the end to not drop behind the McLaren.
Was it all about penalty management then for this race?
Near the end, it was when also once I got that 6 second, well, not 6 seconds, but when I got the 9 seconds, that's what I was very much about to try and just avoid picking up anything unnecessary and dropping behind the McLaren. I mean, yes, he had the 10 second in the pit lane, but I was worried about the grip as well, so I wanted to sort of ensure that I didn't make a mistake and let him get past.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I mean, it's never very easy, especially around this circuit. And next time, it doesn't look like it's going to get any easier. We're going to head to Baku. What are your thoughts on that one?
I very much dislike Baku. I will say it now. Don't be surprised if I find the castle section more. I've done that many a time at Baku, and it would not surprise me if I do it again.
Oh, that should be good fun if you do. And, well, it should be a great watch, if anything. Carl, have you got anything for Brian before we let him go?
Yeah, Brian, Ollie Corbett has arrived and he was getting involved in the battle between yourself and your teammate. Is this going to change how you two go racing now, yourself and Connor? Of course, you're really good at working together, but of course, having another car in the mix might obviously change things. You know, what does that look like going forward with Ollie kind of being in and around your battle?
I mean, yeah, it could like cause some like difficulties at times, but we managed it well today because of the once or twice where he was having a chance of possibly getting one or if not both of us when we were all in that battle together. We were doing well, like for example when I was ahead early on and Connor was in behind, we sort of boxed him in to stop him making any moves, so we still got me and Connor have sort of like a wavelength where we can work out what each other wants to do in them situations and sort of just find a way around it to stop him getting through. But it'll be interesting moving forward if it's gonna stay like that. But it'll be interesting having another car, and it'll be fun to have another car in that battle with the likes of me, Connor, Radiohead. I can't even think who else is in that battle right now, but it'll be fun to have another car in that battle.
Yeah, for sure. We love seeing you guys race. Of course, next time out is Baku, and Connor does tend to go quite well over there, from my experience. Of course, so if it's not a good race for you, then at least hopefully one of you will get some good points. But yeah, thank you for your time as always, Brian. It's always a pleasure, and we look forward to doing it all again next week.
Thank you.
Kyle looks forward to doing it with Brian next week, and also watching Ollie Matthews is coming. Next up in the interview room is the person, or is a couple of the people that he was looking to make the attack for, and I think it's only right to bring in, who would be the next one that we can bring in to the room? Of course, Lucas Erosini is in the VC. He did not join us this evening, so he will not be in the interview. And I think, in fact, we'll have a word with Regan Harding, who, of course, so close yet so far once again for Regan. Very good pace, but I mean, how was that from your perspective?
Yeah, disappointing. Disappointing. I kind of made a mistake. I whacked my tire temps all the way up in qualifying. I never turned them down in the race. And when I came in after doing the formation lap, my tires were on 2% wear, and I just thought, no, I'm absolutely done here. So earlier on in the race, there was like 4 of us fighting. I just stayed back. I was like, my tires are just going to get destroyed. And as you see, I got a time penalty. I actually thought I was going to end up in the wall, so a time penalty isn't too bad. And that was kind of a sign to me to come in. And then Stad pitted, and I was trying to keep him behind, and I wouldn't have pitted again, but he pitted. His AI pitted him, as I'm sure you know. And I thought, I thought he was going for fastest lap, and then I realized his teammate has it, so he isn't. So I said, well, I have the space, and I have the pace. I'll go for it. So I did. So yeah, on one hand, I'm happy with P4, but so close to the podium.
It certainly was so close to the podium, and we also thought the same thing about Owen Baldera in the commentary box here. But I mean, it was a decent pace. It was a decent race pace-wise, if I can get my words out for yourself. So I think do you think the podium's going to be on next time out, maybe within the next few?
I would like to think so. It maybe is bad as it sounds, it just depends who's there. Like, I know if Senkai's there, there's no way I'm getting a podium, but I do think so, yes. It was just my fault completely. I had my wings turned up for qualifying, so I turned them down during the race, my front wing, and I just completely forgot about the tyre temps. And I kind of knew from then on, I think it's mental fortitude. I was like, yeah, no, there's nothing I can do here. So I was hoping maybe a few time penalties or a lucky safety car, but when it got to lap 15, and I don't know if you guys were riding on board for that, I almost binned it into the gravel. I was like, no, I have to pit. So, yeah, bittersweet, I would say. Bittersweet. I think it's the best result I've got in the league so far. But I mean, Monza is absolutely my track. Monza and Singapore. So I don't know. But yeah, unless I suppose it's a podium or it's P1, I won't be happy. But an improvement nonetheless.
Yes, hopefully. An improvement indeed. Fighting talk there, saying that you'll be heading onto that podium. We, of course, hope you will. But, Carl, have you got anything for Regan before we let him go?
Yeah, Regan, your fastest lap, I'm just looking at it now, was 1.4 seconds faster than the next nearest lap. So that was a fantastic time. So you clearly had the pace here. You know, we thought there was potential for the podium for you. Is there a track coming up that you're looking at going, that's the one I'm finally going to get that APC podium?
I'm just looking at it here. I mean, possibly Texas, but even then, I don't know. Azerbaijan, doubt it. I'm dreadful at Brazil. Las Vegas, I'm terrible at. Qatar, Qatar could be a good possibility, and then Abu Dhabi, I'm just terrible at. So, I don't know. I'll go in and look. I know I sound upset now, but when we first started this, when I first started in this league, I'd said that the goal was top 5 every race, and I got top 4. So I suppose I can be happy with that. But it's more annoying when I know I had the pace, and if I just had the tire management, I know I could have been on the podium. There's no if buts or maybes. I absolutely could have been. But yeah, just my fault that I kind of overstepped that, I suppose. So as I said, definitely bittersweet.
Yeah, all about that learning.
Plenty more races to go. Oh,
exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Plenty more races to go, and we'll obviously see you at Baku, where I'm sure there's another chance for you to get some more positions. Of course, it's a lot harder at Baku to corner cut, so that might be your track.
Yeah, well, I mean, I only got 3 seconds in here, so that must be a record for a long, long time. So I'm happy with that.
Yeah, you've done pretty well. But thanks as always for joining us, and
thanks,
we'll
lads. Goodbye.
Next week.
Yes, of course, that was Regan Harding, who ended up taking the position of 4th place in the race, just outside the podium, and we'll get the opportunity to speak to a couple of the drivers who finished on the podium now. Ollie Matthews being the first one. We're going to interrupt his conversation to ask him, Ollie, I mean, you finished 8/10 off of the race victory, so must be pretty good feeling, or feeling as though you could have done a little bit better?
Absolutely. That should have been my win in the bag if it wasn't for a bit of wing damage earlier in the race, which costed me probably at least 8/10 over the course of the stints that I had, which is very frustrating.
Yeah, I can imagine. It is definitely frustrating. But, I mean, the pace was pretty good, so promising signs for potentially a win in the future?
Absolutely not. Monza is arguably probably my best track. And I knew of my pace here, and if it was going to be any race, it was going to be this race with Shanky not racing, and it just wasn't.
We've got a bunch of positive drivers in here tonight, Carl. I'm so glad you stuck Italy on the calendar. That seems to be what's dragged out of the drivers. Baku, then. I mean, of course, as you say, this is your circuit. But what do you feel about Baku?
I'm not. That's my most recent league race win. So I'm hoping that it is also wet, which might be a controversial opinion. But my Baku wet pace seems to be there. And yeah, we'll just have to see how it goes, and hope that Shanky continues to not race, because Aston need to close on Ferrari.
Well, I think I've got some bad news for you in that case. But yeah, it should look very, very good from Aston Martin's perspective, the latter stages of this season. Carl, have you got anything before we let Ollie go?
Yeah, Ollie likes it wet, is what I picked up from that conversation. Ollie, you
cannot be saying that after what you said earlier on.
I'm about to say, Ollie, you were coming fast towards the lead drivers in that race. You will understand that if you watch the race back. Did you think that you had a good chance for the win? Because you looked like potentially you had it. But obviously, you didn't know they were going to battle so hard at the front. And also, what put on that strategy? At what point did you decide I am going as far as I can on these hard tyres and I'm going to pit really late onto the mediums?
So that is always the strategy that I've had in mind for Monza this game, because I won a Monza League race doing the identical thing very early on in the game cycle, which was a masterclass from me. And I thought, if I'm going to do anything now, it's going to replicate it. And I just managed behind in the train. I was thinking, okay, a good result's on for me here if I just keep them coming. Then Alexis and Burt box, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna push on more, and I did without getting too much more tyre wear. I entered the box with like 77% after 20 laps, and the mediums was just flat out, and Burt and Alexis battling loads meant I caught up on, I believe it was lap 23 or 4, and I was thinking, okay, this is winnable, and I got past Burt quite quickly, but then I just couldn't get past Alexis, and then messed up my final parabolic onto the final lap, and didn't get DRS. Which, had I got DRS, I think I would have won that. But I'll still take a P2. I seem to just be allergic to getting wins.
It was a good showing nonetheless, so I think you've done well. We were rooting for a first time winner, but we can't take it away from Alexis. Her pace is amazing, and she was always going to be hard to beat. I think you had a chance with the quali ban, but getting into P3 after on the
turn
first lap,
2,
it was wild. And so we're going to ask you all about that very shortly. But thanks as always for joining us. It's always a pleasure talking to you, and we look forward to speaking to you again very soon.
Yes, that was Ollie Matthews, who ended up in that second place, 8/10 off the back of the of our race victor. Alexis, do you want to just talk us through that one?
That was tough. Starting 9th, got lucky on the grid RNG with us bottom 3. I was first. And then down the inside, I got up into P4, I want to say. And then the whole first inning was just managing tyres and ERS. And I was intentionally staying behind Burt because I didn't need to overtake. And then the second stint, I was going for Burt, and there's just a few cut and dry moves. I think it was all fair. Couple taps of the gravel, and then we were just losing so much time to Ole. But from my half spin, and he went into me, I think that might have cost him the race.
Yeah, it looked as though there was a few very, very crucial moments for you drivers out there. But of course, it was a very tight fight between yourself, Bert, and Ollie. Did you feel as though there was any point where it was going to be difficult for you to, hang it up, to keep it up there, or did you always have the confidence in yourself that you'd be able to take it?
Believe it or not, DRS is not that important around here, I find. Because we're all running 0 wings. So, it's not as effective as in real life. But the clean air, when you're in P1 going out Parabolica, can gain you 2 or 3 temps. So, once I got into first, I was pretty confident I'd keep it. At the moment on lap 26, so I briefly lifted to about 90% throttle just to give myself the DRS, which allowed me to get the lead into turn 1 on lap 27, allowing me to cruise home to P1.
Yeah, it looked like a very good victory from yourself. Well, Carl, have you got anything for Alexis before we let her go?
Yeah, so Ollie was coming fast. Did you think that Ollie would come past you towards the end?
From my last race around here, which was actually, it was what, double W1 round 6? No, round 7? had to say those two numbers. I knew from that race the best strategy was to go medium hards, but he went so long on his mediums, not his mediums. Ollie went so long on his hards. I was like, okay, you might actually come back into play on your strategy. And I was like, I just saw the time ticking down, and he was like caught up to us with like 3 laps to go. I'm like, he has a chance.
Yeah, we thought he'd potentially have a good chance at it, and he went into the lead actually, didn't he? Was it on the lap 26 or something like that? And then ended up on the pit straight, falling back to 3rd position again, and then back ahead of Bert again. So we had a fantastic final 2 laps for us in the commentary box watching. We didn't know who was going to come out on top then. I'm assuming you guys potentially didn't either. But I guess one last question before we let you go. Who was the harder driver to keep behind? Was it Bert or Ollie?
I think it's Ollie. Because I think, like, after I got Bert, I think Bert just dropped back a little, like, because he was leading the whole race. As soon as he's encountered Dirty 8, it's like something he's not used to. So I think he got, like, so used to driving the clean air. When he got the dirty air, he was, like, a bit slower because of it.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, it's a 2nd win, a 3rd on track for you here in APC. So fantastic.
Don't remind me of Stouty.
Fantastic result for you. So well done for doing that with a quali ban as well from the back. Of course, we've still got 6 races left to go here in APC, with the next race taking place at the tight and twisty Baku City Circuit. I cannot wait for that one. That will be followed by the Circuit of the Americas, where the final sprint will take place for season number 10. Race number 11 will be at Brazil, and that'll be followed by another race in the USA, this time at Las Vegas. The penultimate race will take place in Qatar, and the season finale will take place on the 19th of May in Abu Dhabi. You can catch all of those races here live on the APC YouTube channel, but of course join us next week for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, and until then, it is goodbye.
The action's underway. Stance's authority once again.
My word, this could go wrong.
On the brakes, goodness me, what a launch!
Look at that.
It just all comes down to this.